Welcome to Mr. Chalk's Revision Tips. In this video, we will look at abiotic factors and biotic factors. So, abiotic factors are non-living variables. Biotic factors are interactions between organisms, so both can affect the diversity and distributions of organisms in an environment. So, we're going to start off by looking at a range of abiotic factors. So the first one can be light. So some plants have evolved for optimum growth in bright light. An example of this is a cactus or a houseplant. So a cacti originally came from deserts where they grow in bright sunlight. Other plants have evolved to grow in shade. So many orchids, for example, which are also kept as houseplants, are grown on trees in the rainforest and have evolved for optimum growth in dark conditions. So if you were to put an orchid in the bright windowsill and a cactus in the dark corner, neither would grow particularly well. Both animals and plants have evolved to grow healthily at their optimum temperatures. So if you planted either your cactus or your orchid houseplants in cold temperature, they would not grow, right? So they would die. Most people kill houseplants actually by overwatering them rather than by underwatering them. So many plants cannot survive in waterlogged soils. So the roots are unable to respire, so rot. Therefore, the plant dies. You can see from the diagram how the saturation of the soil can be affected by watering them. So moisture level is an important abiotic factor. Soil pH. So the pH of soils can have a huge effect on the plants you grow them. So some plants like the soil acidic. Some plants would prefer them alkali. Some plants, like the hydrangea, for instance, can grow in both. So these plants are unusual in the fact that their flower colour changes in different soil types. Mineral content in the soil can be another abiotic factor. So many plants require high levels of soil minerals to grow well. Right? So examples, magnesium is needed in order to produce chlorophyll. Wind intensity is another abiotic factor. So the strength of the wind and its direction has a huge impact on where organisms are found within an ecosystem. So many organisms prefer shelter conditions. So plant seeds are more likely to settle and germinate there, and animals which depend upon them are more likely to live in those areas. So the strength of the wind can affect the growth of the organism as well. Carbon dioxide levels, particularly important for plants. So carbon dioxide is the reactant involved in photosynthesis. So therefore, the higher the level of carbon dioxide, the greater the rate of photosynthesis would be. And the greater the rate of photosynthesis, the more the plant will grow. So woodlands often have higher carbon dioxide levels than open grassland, for instance. So many plants living in open areas have evolved mechanisms to overcome that shortage in carbon dioxide. Another one is oxygen levels, especially when we are looking at aquatic mammals. So oxygen from the air and oxygen produced from aquatic plants dissolves in the water. So without this, aquatic animals would suffocate and die. So healthy lakes and rivers have a relatively high level of oxygen, whereas polluted waters often have a lower level of oxygen dissolved in it. So the pollution means that only certain species can survive there, such as slugworms and other small invertebrates. A biotic factor is a factor that is caused by something that's living. So for instance, competition in animals, grazing, predation, the availability of food and disease. All animals require food to live, So the availability of food is a major factor in how many animals live in an ecosystem. So areas like the rainforest with rich food supplies have more species of life than areas such as the desert, for instance. The arrival of new predators in an ecosystem can have a devastating effect. So in a balanced ecosystem, predators and prey have evolved together. So the predators can catch enough prey to survive, but not so many that they kill off all of their food. When a new pathogen enters an ecosystem, it can have a devastating effect on it. So as an example, Europeans first colonised North America and introduced new pathogens like the influenza virus and the smallpox virus. So many Native Americans had no immunity to it, so many of them were killed by these viruses. The introduction of new species into an ecosystem can result in outcompeting other native species. So a good example of this would be where grey squirrels were introduced into England and they have progressively outcompeted the native red squirrels. So the red squirrel population has gone down drastically.
Thanks for watching.